Alright guys, so I almost forgot to record, so we're a little ahead of this, but we're getting right into it. Right now I'm trying to get these axles swapped out. I just got a message earlier, just got word earlier that my wheels should be ready to pick up either tomorrow or the day after, and these axles are probably the last biggest thing that I have to do while the car is up in the air. The only other thing I wanted to do while it was up was the underglow, but I can't get that done quite yet, not until I figure out what I'm doing about the splitter, because how far or how deep or where that splitter lands is going to kind of determine where I lay the LED strips on the front. So that's probably the last thing I wanted to do while the car was in the air. But other than that, once these axles are on and I have wheels on, I have to do a slight toe adjustment on this side, but other than that, the car is good and ready to go. And I would be hoping to be able to get an alignment done this weekend, if not sooner. But that's literally all I'm waiting for to be able to get this car moving. So I'm gonna go ahead, try and get these spacers off, get this cotter pin out, and I'm gonna loosen out the axle nut. Once those two are out, I'm just gonna give it a little knock to make sure it has some movement. If it doesn't move, that's gonna be a pain in the butt. If it does, next step would be to get under the car, get to the diff, and try to get that those little, I think they're like 14 mil bolts that hold the axle to the diff. But right now I'm just getting these things out and getting them loose before I even bother getting under the car. So that was a good sign. I was able to push the axle in and it moved freely towards the back, so I know that this isn't seized inside the hub or anything like that. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and get under the car. Like I said, there's about, check right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts that hold the axle to the diff. So I'm going to go ahead, get those loosened up, and then we'll start going and getting ahead and getting these used axles in. Only reason I'm replacing axles right now is because the boots are torn and there's axle grease all over underneath the car. So I just picked up some used ones to throw back in there to keep the car moving and not have to worry about, axle grease everywhere. All right, guys, so it's another day. We're gonna try this again. Yesterday was an absolute fail because the two axles that I got were used. They were both from LKQ. I got into a habit with my Mazda of getting the getting used OEM axles versus getting new remanufactured ones because they were always out of spec and I always used to get vibrations. So for this car I did the same thing, got some used ones. The problem was that the studs on both of them were mushroomed, so I couldn't get the axle nut onto them. I was able to save one. I was able to save the passenger side, so that side's going to work out. For the driver side, I tried to go ahead and cut off the messed up threads to try to get the axle nut on there. I couldn't cut as far back as I wanted to because obviously you've got to save room for the cotter pin to get in there. So I did end up trying that and absolutely failed. It just still wouldn't go on, and then the axle nut cross-threaded on there too. So I ended up having that go out to AutoZone to get an axle. It was an AutoZone that was a little more than 30 minutes away because Advanced Auto didn't have any for this car, and that AutoZone was the only one, or the closest one, that had one that I needed, and it just so happened to be one left of the driver's side, which is what I need. So I did go out and get that, so I'm going to go ahead and continue where I left off yesterday. So far, already I went ahead and got, like I said, the axle nuts are off. Let me get some lighting. Axle nuts are off, cotter pins are out, everything is nice and loose. So what I've got to do now is get under the car and get the rest of those bolts off so we can swap these all out. So let's get to it. This is what we'll be dealing with. So we're going to go ahead and get all of these nuts off around the axle. Only thing I'm looking at here I'm hoping that it clears the exhaust and I don't have to drop the exhaust or do anything weird to get the axle out, because looking at the way it's aligned, it looks like it might be in the way. The driver's side is fine. There's more than enough clearance, it looks like, but the passenger side is definitely much closer to the exhaust. So either way, let's get to it. Alright, so far I've gotten these two loose. I just wanted to let you guys know. I remember hearing that these were supposed to be like a 14, maybe a 16, but the 16 I have fits a little loose on it, and I don't want to strip anything. I actually found that this 9/16 socket actually works best so far. It fits it really well. So I'm going to go ahead, keep breaking these loose. I'll probably have to drop the e-brakes so I can spin this and get to the bolts on the other side. So let's keep going. What I'm actually surprised about is that there's no Loctite or anything on these. I guess whatever they torque it down to is just enough, but sure, I guess. Whatever works for them. I think I'd feel a little more comfortable with some Loctite on there. Can't really grab these. I'm usually not one to work with such thick gloves, but lately I've gotten tired of busting my knuckles on metals and pipes and sharp edges, so trying these out for today. They're a little bulky, thicker than I would wear. I might go put some regular, not latex, what are those things? Nitrile, whatever, gloves on. So I'm having a hard time using my fingers with this. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Alright, quick pause there for some glove switch, and while I was up there I went ahead and dropped the e-brake and I threw a flathead. I guess you could use whatever screwdriver fits, but I put a flathead into the vent of the rotor to try to hold it from spinning while I break these loose. So let's keep going. Alright, we're down to our last bolt and this axle's ready to drop down. So I'm gonna go ahead and push that out, and here we are. And the stud's already out of the hub. Oh, that's nice. Looks like I might need to give it a little love tap from the outside. Alright, so we got the axle out of the hub, but it's kind of stuck or wedged a bit between the sway bar end link and the rear bucket. So just trying to see if there's any way to kind of jimmy it out. I don't want to have to take that end link out, but right now it's seeming like something that I might just have to do. Alright, so I went ahead, I had to use the impact because I just don't have enough room for leverage under here, but went ahead and got the end link off, so we should have space to get this axle out now. Flashlight died, so had to pull the spotlight out, which is actually helping much better. Should have just brought this off to begin with, but we got the axle out. We're gonna go ahead and clean up all this extra axle grease that splattered from the boot that was ripped. And kind of make it out there. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that all up, and then we'll go ahead and get the new axle in. Okay, so I got as much of the grease off of the surfaces that I could. Changing axles isn't fun, but I think the worst part of it is trying to get this grease gone, because it just gets everywhere, like absolutely everywhere, even all up there. It just slings everywhere. It's annoying to clean. But either way, I cleaned off what I could. It's not gonna be perfect, and I don't have a million microfiber rags to go through to clean all of that stuff up. But I went ahead, I got some grease onto the CV joint, onto the part that goes into the hub, the splines, and I put some in the hub as well on the spline joints there, just to keep that lubricated. So we're gonna go ahead, get this one in, and then after that we'll go ahead and get the bolts back in and tidy this up, and we'll go ahead and start on the driver's side. Alright, newer axle is in. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting these bolts in place. I'm not gonna tighten them just yet because there's nothing holding the rotor or the diff from spinning. So for now I'm gonna rotate, get them all in place, and then I'll lock it up and tighten everything up. Alright, so we've got the 6 bolts in place. Those are all nice and tight. I'm going to go back and torque them after I do the driver's side, so I only just torque everything one time. Now we're up here at the axle nut, and if I can figure out where I put it, we can go ahead and put it in. Oh, look where it is. Be careful where you put stuff. I think I left it up here. I forgot. So first I'm going to see if I can push it more into the hub manually from behind, as much as I can, and then we'll go ahead and use the impact and the nut to pull the rest of it out as far as we can go. So let's do that now. Okay, now that that's in, just got to go ahead and get this cotter pin back in place and give that a nice bend. As soon as I find my cutters or my bird beaks or something, I'll go ahead and bend this back up. You know how it goes. We'll bend that and then we'll be all done. Alright, so axle nuts torqued down, cotter pins in place. We put the end link back on and tighten that back up, and then we've got all of the, I don't know if you can see it from there, so I'm sitting up, but we've got all the bolts on back at the diff and the axle. So I'm gonna get everything together and head over to the driver's side next and get that side done. Alright guys, so we're over here on the driver's side now. Same situation, same scenario. I'm gonna go ahead and break these bolts loose, all 6 of them, and then take a hammer and slightly tap the axle in with a flathead so that we can get it out of the hub. I'm gonna go ahead one time and release the end link, because I already know from the other side that we're probably gonna have some clearance issues getting that through. So I'll loosen that as well. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get the new one in. Like I said, same process, same scenario. It's all duplicitous. I'm probably not even gonna pause or do any talking on this side unless something comes up that's different. But I'm gonna go ahead and get to it. All right, so that pretty much was the same as the passenger side. Only thing I'm flagging and making note of for myself is that I should probably order some end links. I might do that tonight when I'm done with this, because the car will still be in the air for tomorrow. Tomorrow I pick the wheels up, but you know, they're not going to go on right away. But I do want to replace these end links because they are absolutely shot. And just dancing around in here, it makes me wonder what other bushings need to be changed out. Don't mind this, I'm still adjusting camber. I'm waiting for the wheels to come back so I can dial this stuff in. Then I'll tighten it up. But I'm gonna go ahead and prep the AutoZone axle and get that one in here. Alright guys, so this thing is nice and set underneath. I'm gonna go ahead and get this axle nut on here and tighten this up, and once this is on right, we'll go ahead and get that cotter pin in place and we will be done with axles. And the job itself isn't that hard. It's actually easier on this than it is on most other cars, especially on the front wheel drive where you typically have to drop the entire spindle or arm or something to get enough room for the axle to flex. But in this case, you really just only had to fight with the end link because it was in the way, and other than that, everything else came off pretty easy. Don't let this fool you though, because I have seen some stuff online in various places that people have gotten axles stuck. I think what happens is that it actually gets seized in the hub, which is why they now recommend that you grease the splines to avoid that happening. I can't imagine the hell that must be to get that out of place and possibly have to change the whole hub. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and ugga this nice and right, get the cotter pin in, and we'll be done. Alright guys, so I'm going to go inside right now and try to order those end links, but we are done with axles for the time being. There's nothing else to do. We cleaned everything up, everything's torqued down, tightened, spec. But like I said, I want to get those end links replaced because they're really sloppy. They're basically not doing anything at this point. And I'd like the car to feel nice when I finally get to drive it. I've technically owned it since January. Furthest I've gone is around the block, and that's it. So I am anxious to drive the car, but like I said, plan is hopefully we're picking up the wheels tomorrow. Once the wheels are here, we'll go ahead, get them on, get the fitment right, get everything lined up. First stop after that is to an alignment shop. Now typically I'd go to Stand Center out in Tampa. They're in like Brandonish area. I don't know what that part's called. But from where I am, that's a bit of a distance, and as bad as this alignment probably is, I don't know if I want to drive the car that far. So we might be looking for somewhere else out here in like the area where I am. Other than that, guys, gotta get some tweeters in the doors, and this thing's ready to go. I mean, I'm ready to go. Next stop after these small things is wrap. So I'm excited. But till then, see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all of that stuff. But otherwise, peace out and God bless y'all.